quarter report for the Seaside CDBG program for fiscal year 2019-2020, and for that, we turn it over to Sharon Meixel.
Okay, good evening. We're going back to the first quarter here, and that ended on September 30th. So we're going to roll back the clock a little bit and recap what we did in first quarter. The 2019-20 CDBG funded activities include 8 public services subrecipients, capital projects from 3 subrecipients, and micro enterprise assistance coordinated by the City of Seaside. We did have some holdover activities from 2018-2019, the Catino Park accessibility improvements that were in progress, the Community Human Services plumbing improvements that were in progress, and the Wanda Sidewalk project, which has not yet started. 2 of the 3 holdover activities were completed in the first quarter. That would be Catino Park and Community Human Services plumbing improvements. HUD actually requested an update on the Wanda Sidewalk project. The city engineer provided an update stating that the project is scheduled for completion in the spring of 2020, which will be almost a year past the deadline. Outside agencies utilizing CDBG funding must enter into a contract with the city and provide insurance to the city. These contracts cannot be processed by the city until HUD actually approves the annual action plan and shows the grant funding award in the IDIS program. As a result, our contract documents were not prepared until the end of September, which was almost the end of first quarter. Due to this timing, some of our public services subrecipients were actually able to receive reimbursements almost immediately following their full contract execution. First quarter did end on September 30th. And once those contracts were fully executed, the public service subrecipients could be reimbursed back to July 1st. Capital projects can't proceed until the contracts are signed and the environmental documents are prepared. The public services are exempt, so they just get an exemption notice. The Action Council of Monterey County, Palenque Arts, submitted their contract for full execution on December 20th, so you will not see them in the report. As indicated in the attached spreadsheet to the staff report, the CDBG program has already helped at the end of first quarter 829 people via public services in the first quarter, with over $25,000 reimbursed to the participating agencies. And please keep in mind, this is only through September 30th. I know that we're now in the first of the year, so this is back in first quarter. And you'll see the attachment with all the reimbursements that were done as of the end of the first quarter. Thank you.
You should, because we're live streaming. Do we know how they work? Okay. All right. Thank you for the report, Sharon. The next item on the agenda is for the committee to receive the 2020-2022 CDBG applications. And this time, apparently, we're getting it from the city data services instead of the binders. So you may proceed.
I'm going to introduce Chris and Steve from City Data Services, and they're going to put this on the screen, so if Jack can help them, that would be really good. Thank you. I'll drive the Mevo one.
Briefly, my name is Chris Davidson with City Data Services, essentially the applications were online. The application closed January 10th, and it went pretty smoothly.
17 applications.
Total 17, and so all the applicants went through you guys' new system, and I don't think we had very many. Nobody really talked to us much, so it went pretty well without a hitch. And so we have an evaluation system that is online, and if you choose to use it, many of all the jurisdictions, we work with a number of jurisdictions throughout California, and they use evaluation systems that just are points Some have comments, some don't, so it's all, pretty much up to the committee. So we'll show you what's available. You can decide if you want to use it or not. In any case, you can look at the applications online and review them however you want to. So, we'll show you how it works.
If we decide that we would prefer not to review online entirely, do we have the option of making printouts?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So you can, the applications, you can actually view them and print them, from your desktop. And then if you have, however you deliberate, you just would do your normal deliberations. Does that make sense?
Clarify, if you want to print them yourself on your computer, you can. The city's not providing them.
And may I ask why that we're breaking from?
We don't do it from any other committee.
Okay, so there's that, actually, this is turned on.
Okay, so let's pull up the application spreadsheet. So this is available to staff. We can put a link on the page where you guys can log in and print out the applications. So essentially what it has the applicant, project name, if you scroll over to the right, staff, the amount that they requested, and then the total budget. If there's other things that staff wants to see, we can put that on this spreadsheet. So just FYI, this is kind of a preliminary piece. So this is the overall view. So maybe and again, we'll put this so that you guys have, you can access it from the page where you can access the applications. So.
So this is an overview of the amounts requested and the number of beneficiaries that they expect to serve for those amounts of money.
Yeah, there's the cost per client broken down, so, and the estimated amount of beneficiaries. And then the percent of their budget that they've requested money for. So that's kind of helpful to look at. And it also will prompt you whenever you meet with them. It gives you some idea of some of the questions you want to ask them about. There's only one of them has 100% of the budget that they're asking for. So they probably made a mistake someplace. Okay, so do you have questions about this?
How do we access
Will we be able to access the applications themselves?
Yes, and we'll show you how this. So you go to the city website, to the City Data Services at yahoo.com, and we can get this information to you. And then we'll give you, it's a generic username and password, and then that takes you to a page. And in this case, you'll have your name where it says evaluator. Your name will be there, and then you'll get a PIN number, and then you just put the PIN in. And these are the different applicants. And then if you click on this link, actually we'll make it to, so this goes to an evaluation sheet. You can kind of look at this. This is numeric. You scroll down, you can see, the questions. If it's something you choose to use. If you don't, then we'll make sure we'll just have the link to their application right here. And you
So
can,
this links to the actual application in full. Each of the questions that they answered
and the numbers and the budgets and all the rest of the pieces that were part of the application. This is essentially, well, it's similar to the applications they've done in the past and very similar to what Salinas and Monterey County use for applications. At the bottom are all of the attachments, and these are all live links, so you can just click on those and they will pop open and you can view the attachments this way. So here you go. Whatever they may have chosen to upload for these things. Again, you know, if you want to do a point scoring thing, that's available. If you want to just read applications and make comments, all of our jurisdictions do something different. So whatever process people would like to use, we can set it up that way so that it's easy for you to do exactly how you want to evaluate these. Some jurisdictions just has a list of all these being the live applications here. You just click them and they pop open right away, and then you can take your own notes or answer a few questions. Whatever works best for you.
Is there anyone that you would like to see in particular?
Yes, it would be great if you would walk us through an entire application. So
We cannot discuss applications tonight.
not discuss applications tonight. You don't have a generic one that we could use as a model.
Yeah, we do.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we have one. I think our test.
Okay.
So you might explain what
Right.
they're looking at. Go on.
This is the main page that shows all the different programs, both the application, the existing programs live in this area up here. They're the ones that are currently being reported on. And then there's applications that came in, a few people who started applications but didn't submit them. And these test agency pieces down here are ones that we use to test the software and to respond to questions as they came up within the application. Right. So this is the application itself. First part is just general contact information, who's responsible for the organization and the information in the application. It's a bit down here about audits and audit findings, what their fiscal year looks like, whether or not they provide legal services, which changes the contracts somewhat. There are technically 3 different styles of application, although they're extremely similar. There's straight up public services, economic development, which has some slightly different questions about businesses being served, and capital improvement, which asks a lot about functions and time frames and readiness and all those kind of good questions that you need to know on capital improvement stuff. They can enter up here an amount of money, and if they're submitting multiple projects, they can give them a priority so that staff knows what the organization thinks is the most important. This is all kind of CDBG questions having to do with the style of client that they are going to assist and the category that assistance falls into. I'm going to actually change this to a public service application because that is more common than economic development. But it looks very much the same. Again, most of the application is the same for any of these choices. Description of target groups and what kind of benefit we'll bring to the city of Seaside. A few other questions that are sort of CDBG related. They want to know whether there's emphasis on any of these specific groups. These questions are also CDBG driven questions that kind of give you the general area in which the organization is operating. They put in the scope of work, what they're going to be doing, what they're asking for money for, and then the types of activities that they are going to be promoting or creating. Again, they can put in multiple different types of activities down here as far as what they want to be measured against. So you may see 3 or 4 lines here of specific goals that they have and the type of work they're going to do. Again, all the questions in this area have to do with what are they going to do, how are they going to reach out to the people that they're trying to serve, what's the outreach plan, and how do they measure the effectiveness of the work that they have done. This question here having to do with if they don't get all the money they're asking for, are they still going to be able to do their job, and how does it affect them? Generally, you like to see that they can do the job regardless of whether they get this money. They just do it better or worse or more people if there's money available from the program. Here's how much they are in conformance with the consolidated plans and the goals that are important to the city of Seaside. And some specific questions about how they're going to meet those goals. This has to do with the entire agency and what money they're getting from the city of Seaside versus what money they get from other sources. And so what is the amount of leveraging that they have on it. This gets back into the specifics of the organization, what their main purpose is, aside from the function that they may be asking for money for, where their facilities are, how their internal controls, record keeping, capacity to carry out the proposed activity, and down here they list the various different programs that the organization is involved with. In other words, is it just this one program that they're asking for money for, or do they have several different types of programs that they operate? This down here shows grants and awards that they've received in prior fiscal years and the amounts of money. This is, again, more CDBG specific in terms of what are they going to do, how many people have they helped in the past, how many people do they propose to help with the money that they're getting specifically. This section here is a staff list of people who are going to be paid out of the CDBG funding. It's not everybody in the organization, but just the people that they expect to reimburse with CDBG funds. And then down here is a larger budget where they lay out how much money they're spending in total and what % of that they're asking for from the city of Seaside. Beyond that are just the application or the attachments that there are some which are required and some which are optional.
I have a question about the scoring sheet. You said that we have our choice of a couple different ones. Is it possible to have that open in another window so that you can score as you read?
Yes, the way that it works on the sheet that we had there is that you can pop up, you can get a print version of the application inside that scoring sheet. So that pops up as one window, and then the scoring sheet is also there on the screen at the same time. So you can kind of go back and forth between those, or if you have 2 screens, you can lay them out side by side.
Now, is there a search function? Because we don't want to be comparing capital projects with service applications.
I don't think on that screen
They get
yes.
different consideration.
Right. I don't think on the screen that I showed you that they're broken up that way, but we can certainly present it that way. It's not a problem at all.
Because that is the way
Right.
we have to read it.
Right, exactly. Yes. On the spreadsheet, it breaks it out into public services and capital projects, so it's easy to see on the spreadsheet also. Okay. we can break this list up so that it lists public services and then capital improvements as two separate lists here essentially. But once you click into one of these programs, this is a print version of the application right here. You can either view it online or you can print it out. And again, this will flow around and you can use it or go back and forth depending on how big your screen is. This one's really small, but be able to be looking at the same thing at essentially the same time.
The way to get that to pop up is actually pretending you're going to print it.
No, if you just click on this link up here where it says click here, that pops it up automatically. If you wanted to print it, you can right click on it and tell it to print.
So it does actually open in a separate.
Correct, absolutely.
And I noticed there's a scoring, there's like a Likert scale scoring
Yes.
as per evaluators.
Yes, the way it's designed is so you can have a committee of evaluations and each person has their own, they can't see anybody else's. And then we can put a spreadsheet together that adds the numbers together or averages them, but doesn't describe about who's what or where the numbers came from. And then as you go through and score them, you can kind of see which ones you've done and which ones you haven't done and what the scores are and such like that.
If we change our mind, we can go back.
Absolutely. That's what the edit button is for. And again, it naturally works that way. As you go through more, you're like, oh, well, these people are clearly way better than somebody else or way worse or something.
So my main question is, the future perfect tense has been used a lot. We will be provided with the link. We will be provided with scoring.
Yes.
Explain a little bit more about how that happens.
Well,
please.
this right here is live right now. All I'm saying is, if you want a slightly different presentation, we normally can accomplish that within a day or so. Just need to know how you'd like to see anything that's different from what's here right now.
So the access to it is, so basically we just provide you guys, a generic username and password. You could do that tonight. And then we give you a PIN for, to put that in and just click your name, and then this is what's available right now. Tomorrow, if you want something different, just let us know and it will be different, so.
And will that be sent to the commissioners by email or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we could also send it to Sharon if she wants to distribute. I mean, however you guys, whatever your comfort level is with that, so.
Sharon, do you have anything to add?
At this point, I thank Chris and Steve for coming down here to explain it, and if you guys have questions with them, and as far as the technical aspect of how to access, that's fine. Please make sure that you're not deliberating with each other than in a meeting, and yeah, however you want. This is your way to, that you can look at these, so if you come on work with them, they take requests. So.
We have a request line.
Okay, I had hoped that my experience, I've been on this committee for 4 years now, I hoped going into this that my prior experience would count for more than it apparently is going to be. You're presenting us with a brand new process, and we have basically a brand new committee. I don't think it's practical tonight for us to know what our needs or wants are likely to be.
I will enter in this here. We do need a recommendation from the CDAC by March 3rd. To meet our HUD deadlines.
A recommendation on funding on the applications.
On funding on the applications.
Okay.
And these two have come down here from the Bay Area. So if we can possibly come up with something tonight that we can move forward with, If you don't want to use the spreadsheets and you just want to talk about it and write down a piece of paper or something, that's okay too, but we can't hold the process up.
I will accept comments from the committee now.
Well, I was gonna ask how, so in the past, what's been the sort of ranking system that has been used? Or, I should say, evaluation process.
In the past, it was a very similar type of scale. Basically, it was broken down by percentage, like fully meets was a certain number of points, partially meets was a certain number of points, does not meet was awarded no points, was the basic idea. We would assess what the individual item was and the applicant's response to that, and it was our job to determine whether we felt it fully met the case or partially met the case. An example would be, preference is given to serving very low income residents. Does this service serve entirely very low income residents? Are half of their clientele very low income? That sort of thing. Those details would be in the applications, and it would be our job to review the application and assess how closely they seem to meet each case of the application. And then the points were totaled at the end, and that pretty much gave us the answer. I imagine we will be doing something very similar to that, but because I can barely see the screen, I'm not totally sure exactly at this point in time how we are going to compare one application to another. And it's quite possible that I probably will be printing some of this out because it's very helpful, particularly when you get down to, it's one thing to assign scores as you go based on, yes, I have a hunch this is correct, this is obviously exactly what's being asked for. But then when you have to rank the applications, that's when it's very useful to be able to look at them side by side. So that's my initial impression. Lanny, do you have anything to add?
The way that you did it in past years, is it similar to this?
Maybe. It looks as though the application is very similar. I imagine the questions are very similar. I'm sure that the applicants have done their very best to answer those questions in a pertinent manner. In the past, what we would do is we would read every application, and only certain points of the application were on our particular score sheet. Some of the points had already been scored by city staff. We were basically just judging the high points, if you will, that would allow us to speak in terms of our feeling of the merit of the application. It wasn't our job to determine if the application met criteria. That was already taken care of by the city. I would like to believe that that's the case again this year. But again, as we were reviewing, if we came upon something that seemed to contradict the points of the application, then we could certainly raise those questions and have a discussion about them. That could also affect the way you apply points. Say, well, I don't actually believe this service meets the criteria, and so that could be a factor in the scoring. The thing that is a little that I'm just a little uncertain about right now, as I said, is that I don't know from looking at this if we are going to weigh in and apply points to every field in the application or only certain fields in the application, and that makes a difference.
No, it's sort of like what you described before. It's just key questions. There's about 17 questions, I think, in here, but they just hit the key point of, are they serving the right people? Are the people that the people who are responsible for this want to be served? Do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the financial capacity to be able to manage their programs? And, you know, what's the community needs? So again, it's a decent set of questions. It's something that we got from elsewhere. Again, we can make it be anything. It's a little late to be redoing it, but we can do that. We don't, I mean, again, we got a month and a half before the answers are absolutely required, and we can easily change this. It's not a big deal.
So the questions are actually on the score sheet.
Yes, correct.
So you could have the score sheet open and be assessing the applications
As you
against
read.
the score sheet
Yes,
as you go along.
absolutely.
Okay, that makes more sense. Absolutely.
I was gonna say, for our next meeting, will we be able to get a printout? So like, let's say that our process was we went through, we scored, we took some side notes. What would the printout look like? Would it just be Excel sheet or?
I do want to remind you, anything that you print out and bring to this meeting is public.
Oh, sure.
As long as you realize that.
Yeah.
We do have some people who do not want their scores public for whatever reason, and I do want to remind you that if you do choose to have score sheets like that, whatever you choose will be, it'll say, David chose this. And
Normally what we end up with is a spreadsheet that just has compiled scores. So it takes the averages of everybody who scored. You know, some of them may have only been scored by 2 people, some may have been scored by everybody, and it'll just give you an average, 47, 33.5, whatever. So, and that's normally what gets into the public meeting access.
But for purposes of deliberation, I think the committee members probably will want to bring notes of some kind. Questions, and if they feel very strongly in favor of a project, or very strongly as if one applicant perhaps is not a good fit for the funding, those are appropriate things for us to deliberate before we make our funding decisions. What I would like to propose now is that since you're not handing us a box of printouts to take home and start on tonight, I would like to be able to use the intervening time until our next meeting to get comfortable with the online application.
Well, we can give you a login tonight, and you can log in tonight and go look at the applications.
As I was saying, we may need some time to formulate our questions and have recommendations for the committee. So if possible, I would like to make our task for the next meeting to be ready to do the scoring, be familiar with the process, have our questions to get them answered so that then we can really get down to work. If that isn't happening tonight, then I think we're going to need that time to prepare. Since it hasn't been prepared for us and presented to us, we're going to need that time. I don't think the committee is in any position tonight to say what our needs are and how we want to proceed.
Okay.
So I'm fairly comfortable with the scoring as is, especially if you can do a consolidated score. Would it be possible to add a text box for notes that could be consolidated, or is that already on?
Actually.
Okay. Gotcha.
And those get put onto the spreadsheet, but they're unattributed, so you don't know where they're coming from.
Now, if we want to then refer back to our notes, are these retrievable? I mean, at some point,
Yes.
are we submitting the form and it's just
No.
gone?
No, it's always, by your login, you can always access your forms,
And only your forms?
only your forms.
Okay. Lanny, any thoughts?
Is it set up in such a way that someone, pushed the wrong button and, like, kills everything? Is it set up that there's a
It would be extremely difficult to do that. And even if it did happen, we can recover it because we have backups on everything, so.
I'd like
Well, we can provide you passwords this evening and you can use them at your discretion.
Yeah, just to go in and get familiar and play around with it and.
Absolutely.
In the past, questions or snags that we encountered along the way were referred to city staff. Is that how this would also work? And then Sharon could then contact you?
We're fine with you contacting us directly. I don't have any for technical issues, right? We won't tell you how to fill out the form, but
Mhm.
issues we can deal with.
Okay, excellent, good.
I don't have a question. I mean, I am more than happy to get started tonight, and if I have questions, judging. I think it's fairly straightforward. Working tech, so.
Okay, Sharon, I think that everyone on the committee has weighed in, and we would like to receive our login and PIN numbers tonight, with the understanding that we will be in touch with the web support if we have questions or comments. I was hoping that you might address a little bit of wisdom, how to approach these reviews for the newbies who have not been through this process. Is that something you're willing to do right now?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking here, other than please read them and see how you feel about them. I would suggest, it's just kind of hopping into the next item. It's the deadline for the recommendations to council that I need to write a staff report. I need to have a staff report written by March 3rd. I need the titles by March 2nd. Your next meeting is February 19th. You may wish to have some of these groups come in and give a presentation. That did happen in the last cycle. We did have the people who did apply come in and do a small presentation. There are a lot of applications, many more than last cycle, so you may want to have a special meeting to do this. That's up to you to decide when to have that special meeting. I would suggest reading the applications first so that you be prepared for it. It can be either before or after your February 19th meeting. But however, that the potential subrecipients would need some advance notice of when that special meeting would be so they can be prepared to give a presentation.
I would like to suggest to the committee that we sketch out a time for a special meeting tonight. We don't have to schedule it if we don't need it, but I think that all things considered, the sooner that we know, the sooner we can have it announced and made public. So I propose that the special meeting be the meeting when we begin our deliberation and try to have our scoring complete by then, and use the regularly scheduled CDAC meeting to have presentations if we deem that that's necessary. I don't want to slow down the process by doing the deliberations on the 19th and then trying to squeeze in a special meeting after that. That's just my feeling. So, would it be possible to meet? I don't have a calendar. What is the first Wednesday in February? If the 15th is the 3rd, if the third weekend is the 19th.
Well, so unfortunately, I'm going to be away from work on that first week of February.
Okay.
I'm available anytime.
How about the second Wednesday in February? Would you be available then?
Yeah, I can be there for that.
Sharon, do you think that works?
That's the 12th.
The 12th? As far as I'm concerned, that works. I think that sounds like a good idea, but I will entertain a motion
That's
that
what
we schedule a potential retract the word potential, that we schedule that our next meeting for February 20th and reserve the regularly scheduled February 19th meeting for applicant presentations if we deem that necessary.
We don't have to have everybody give a presentation, just the ones that maybe are close or we don't really understand.
That was my thinking.
Okay.
Yes. And it may not be necessary, these applications may be entirely straightforward, I don't know.
And I'm just going to weigh in that I will be approached by almost all the subrecipients asking if their presence is required at your special meeting.
Indeed, so let's keep it on the calendar, and we'll see how it goes, but.
So you want your special meeting on the 12th? You said the 20th at one point, just so I want to make sure you meant the 12th.
I didn't mean the 12th.
Okay, just want to make sure we were on the same page here.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. So I still need a
Motion?
motion from my committee.
I make a motion that we have a special meeting on February 12th with our regular scheduled meeting on the 19th.
Second?
Yep, second, sorry.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. That's decided. Since we've already segued into the next order of business, is there anything else on the long-range calendar that the committee needs to weigh in at this time? Like Lanny, I'm pretty much available all the time. Okay. Calendar's removed. The calendar is reviewed. I don't know about you, but it's been a long day for me. And we have no further adjustments at this time, except for the scheduling of an extra meeting on February 12th to begin our deliberation of the 2020 through 2022 application cycle. So, that said, are there any reports from committee members?
No, not for me. Just ready to go.
He's ready to go. Any reports, he's ready to go. Excellent. Are there any reports by staff?
I do want to let everybody know that I will be on vacation from the 22nd through the 29th. So if you do have any questions regarding this, please contact Chris and Steve because I won't be able to.
Which month was that, please?
Next week, I'm going to
Okay, January.
January.
Okay, very good.
But other than that, I mean, I usually respond to emails, but I'm not going to be email approachable during that time. So thank you.
Very good.
Can you make sure that we have their contact?
Absolutely,
will.
All right. I will now call for a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn the meeting. I second that.
All right, all those in favor, aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Get us that login information.